everyone, welcome to the Monster Report. Your host Nick Adam Poling here. It has been a minute since we've had an episode up and running again, especially not when it's just a monster trailer. And I appreciate y'all watching those monster trailers, but we are in our little Monster HQ here and on Skype, and I'd like to introduce you to 13 AM, and we've got Seismic as well, and I want to introduce these gentlemen I've got Chris Oglio, Alex Rushdy, and Mike Lambert. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
It's good to have you all here. Start with Chris. Kind of talk about your background and what your new endeavor is in the toy industry you've got going there.
Sure. My background is video production, so I have long career in indie films and industrial videos, corporate stuff, a whole bunch of events, stuff like that. And I'm currently working with Alex and with Mike's amazing help to produce some pretty awesome toys. So we formed Seismic about a year and a half ago, and it's been a pretty fun trip.
Awesome.
And I'm Alex Rushdy. I'm the CEO and creative director at 13am Games. I've been there now for coming up on 7 years. And so I'm currently working on Dawn of the Monsters, our new cooperative kaiju action game at 13am. And then I'm also co-founder of Seismic Toys, which we just earlier this year released Arctic Blast Megadon and announced Genera, and got some new stuff that we'll be cooking up for next year as well.
Awesome.
And I'm Mike Lambert, and I'm a artist and animator at 13am Games, and I also designed the Megadon and Genera toy.
Okay, awesome. So we've got the co-op between Seismic, 13am, and so the figures that we're going to be talking about. Speaking of Megadon, I have received my Arctic Blast Megadon, and I would do an unboxing, but he's in a bag, so let's get him out of there. Unbag him. And get this guy out of there, because he's been sitting here a while, and I've been wanting to get him out for this episode. And got our tail section there, and of course our Dawn of the Monsters card to let us know it takes monsters to stop monsters. Very cool. So Alex, we got a QR code. Tell me about that. What's going on there?
I think that the QR code there is going to take you to a survey for the game. So you can fill out that survey, and back when we had in-person events, answering the survey would get you a free sticker. But
oh, really?
Nowadays it's just, I guess, if you want to do the survey and learn more about the game.
Okay, cool. Just getting my first look at him out of the bag anyways. My kids have really wanted me to open this guy up and take a look at him. They're going to get the chance to look at him later. But, man, does he scream tokusatsu or what? I just think this is a great addition to the shelf that I have all the Marmot figures on, because he just goes right along with those. And he's got 2019 Seismic copyright, and we've got the Japanese characters on the foot there. Is that Seismic's? Is that the name? Seismic?
It actually says Megadon in Japanese.
Yeah,
Megadon in Japanese. Very cool. All right, awesome. And while I am gonna let you guys have a little talk with each other, I'm gonna assemble that tail and come back with him, and we'll see what he looks like all completed and get some shots of him. I'll let you guys kind of talk about designing the figure, designing all the figures, both Megadon, Genera, and kind of what goes into that, and what the inspiration of this was. All right, be right back. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Sure. So I guess we'll take it from the beginning, guys. So How did Dawn of the Monsters come about for 13am Games?
Well, Dawn of the Monsters actually started before Mike was with 13am. way back in, I want to say 2016-ish. The studio needed some pitches for a new game. We came up with an idea for a monster fighter, and we created a prototype. And then, we kind of shopped it around to different publishers, but we couldn't really get any traction. So we kind of shelved the idea and went with a different idea that ended up becoming Double Cross that we got a publisher for and released. But we always were kind of interested in the monster idea, but we thought, well, maybe it would work better instead of a competitive game to make it into a cooperative game, to make it into more of an action kind of beat 'em up game. Kind of like King of the Monsters 2, but more like, Streets of Rage, Final Fight. So then we took that idea and we got some government funding, made a prototype, designed a bunch of monsters. Mike can tell you, he came up with 100 monster concepts.
Oh my god.
Yeah, something
More
like
than that.
Yeah,
More
I
than
think
that,
it was
I
like
think.
120 or something.
So were you given specific ideas, Mike, from the creative team at 13 AM, or were you just kind of more using your imagination, just trying different things?
Yeah, at first I was just kind of coming up with anything I possibly could, just weird stuff. And then I was trying to I started angling it more to what I thought kaijus generally look like and stuff. And then we started adding extra lore into it and stuff like that. And so it was kind of just a ton of designs before I refined it to a couple.
Yeah, cool. I'll send it to Nick, so maybe he can post it. But there was this image that Mike made that I think it was 40 or 50 kaiju in one image, and it was this master image. And we poured through that, and we were okay, we like this part of that one, we like this part of that one, and eventually we started to refine things.
So a lot of Frankensteining, almost, of borrowing different parts from different design elements to kind of form the final designs.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that Megadon actually had a separate. All the player characters had their own separate processes. Oh, there he is. Speak of the devil.
It's all ready to go.
That's great.
Beauty.
Yeah, no problem there. And I love we got some articulation in the arms.
Mm-hmm. And in the wrists too, which was a very unique feature, which was sort of an accident. I think that's how we kind of came up with that.
Benny just kind of did that. I'd never our manufacturing, we've got a manufacturer in Hong Kong, and he kind of did that on his own, and we were oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of the figures of this size. You get your NECAs with some wrist movement, but not much. This guy, boy, you could turn that all the way around.
Yeah, it's a very cool pose feature. So, I mean, again, it was one of those sort of a happy accident. And I have to say, I remember our original prototype, the original 3D printed one, when we first were working with Benny, that, they send you out an initial one. Okay, here's the initial pass. And we all both really like that. And then, you compare it to what became the final version of the original, the classic, and it's pretty night and day different. And I think it turned out for the better. We were very happy. We'll kind of touch more upon that later, how the glacial look kind of came about.
Yeah. That was one that caught my eye immediately. That's why I called you up and said, I definitely want you to send me one of those guys. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, go ahead, Alex. What were you gonna talk about there?
Oh no, we were just talking about kind of how the game got started, and basically after we had kind of shelved the concept and brought it back to create a whole new game out of it, a cooperative game, we ended up making a couple of different prototypes, designing some of the key monsters like Megadon. Megadon went through a couple of iterations, and Takashi, our art director, ended up coming up with a kind of final concept for Megadon that we all liked. And then we kind of took him and a couple of other characters and made a prototype, brought it to E3, showed it to Way Forward, who people might know from working on the Shantae games or Godzilla Domination or a bunch. I mean, they make an insane amount of video games, and they just loved it because it looked so unique. Because we have this kind of living comic book look to the game. It's like a live action manga, and then we partnered up with them, and we've been working on it ever since, and should be launching it next year. So.
All right, awesome. And so, best place to be in the know of is there a website for 13 a.m.?
There is. We've got 13amgames.com. We're also on Twitter, and we post a lot of news there. We're on Facebook, and we've also got a Discord, 13am Games official Discord, where people like to talk about the games, talk about kaiju. It's a cool place to hang out.
Definitely, yeah. Everyone get the chance to check that out, and of course, Seismic on Facebook, Twitter as well.
Twitter and Instagram, yep.
Instagram, of course, the website.
Yep, you go to www.seismictoys.com, and where you can get the exclusives, which are the figures that we're producing. And we have a whole bunch of other figures that we sell as well, from Marmots to M1s to Bandai's, X Plus, kind of a whole gambit.
Yeah, it's not just your exclusive figures. Yeah, so when you find some deals out there, every once in a while I'll see, like recently I saw a bull mark you had on there, and I was like, man, yeah, this is great to see some of these items that you're able to acquire. It's not the same things that you might see everywhere, so definitely add Seismic to your list of favorites out there of items that you want to get. So the characters that you've come up with, the tokusatsu figures that we've come up with here, there's a story. I imagine maybe I walked off to get his tail tail attached there, but do we have the background story to either Megadon or any of the other figures?
To like their design of the whole thing?
Well, I meant their background as far as the story it goes in.
Oh, yeah.
Narrative story.
For sure. So in the world of Dawn of the Monsters, there's an organization called Dawn. It's the Defense Alliance Worldwide Network, and they're essentially your kind of anti-kaiju force. They exist in a space station that kind of circles around the Earth, and the space station is called the Sunrise. And so they are tasked with kind of defeating all the Nephilim that have infested the planet, and they've got 4 agents, and 2 of them are Megadon and Genera. So they actually have kaiju that they have kind of figured out how to control and communicate with to send onto planet Earth and destroy the Nephilim nests. Okay. So Megadon is a fire kaiju. He kind of has molten magma as blood, and he can kind of force that through his fists. When he punches things, creates little volcanic explosions. He breathes fire, and also he can do this thing where he kind of flexes and takes attacks, and every attack that hits him increases his power. And Genera is a monster of the sea, and she actually can summon smaller crab monsters that can do her bidding. So she's got a bunch of unique tricks. She can also summon storms and tidal waves and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, so instead of a pseudoscience kind of mistake of nature or mistake of humanity, you've got the Nephilim idea. So a mythic kind of background to this creature, correct?
Yeah. So they're very much versed in ancient myth and legend. There's a lot of, throughout the course of the game, you learn about the history of the Nephilim to try to piece together what are these things, where did they come from, and why are they attacking us?
Yeah. See, in the origins of a lot of the kaiju that are out there, you always have that, whether this is ancient creature that that is a descendant of dinosaurs, or just a lost, frozen in ice kind of creature, a mistake of nature or mistake of humanity that created this monster, or you have, which is in case of my favorite, the supernatural, and of course Godzilla has had that about all of those sorts of kind of origins in one form or another in all of the series. So they've tried them all, and so you've got one for these 2 creatures, and so getting into the games, you're able to, as far as the narrative storyline, I imagine, expand upon that as you go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You actually, throughout the course of the game, you're gonna unlock these archives documents. So it's optional. Like if you want to just go and beat up monsters, you can do that. But for the players who want it, there's actually these archives with detailed information about all the monsters, the world, the history. So there's actually a lot of detail in there that I think people who love kaiju movies and kaiju stories are really going to dig.
Okay, very cool. So getting back to the sculpt here, and putting this all together, tell us about kind of how that came about to do that. Maybe I'm somebody who's an enterprising, endeavoring, wanting to create my own kaiju figure, and whether I'm creating one that's already existence, or like in your guys' case, you started from what you've already got, a design. Tell us what the process is to make him to come to life like this.
Yeah, so basically I started off just with sketches, drawing what I would think he would look like from all the different angles and stuff like that. And then I brought it into Blender, and Blender has like a sculpting tool in it. So basically I just sculpted it like clay. And as I was working on it, you have to keep in mind stuff like how it's going to balance and how like pieces are going to rotate, or if they'll get stuck on things and stuff like that.
What's kind of the idea to always have his tail be the third support as he's standing up there, or was it ever going to be a case where his tail was up in the air, not dragging?
No, we always wanted to have the tail out because we knew it would keep his balance in general, but also like the tail helps it so he can like bend forward a little bit as well.
I'm gonna take back off.
I believe he actually can stand on his feet without the
tail.
Tail, like if you lean him forward.
Yeah, he does pretty well lean forward, hunched forward like that. Yeah. That's his menacing pose. So very cool. And like any of the tokusatsu, I'm sure, the design of him always kept that in mind of making this an upright creature that always has like Godzilla, always had the larger size hips and belly to get the guy inside of there. So if we were to see this, in a tokusatsu, we would definitely see that come to life there. So I've seen that you've got that inspiration in there. It's not just like the CGI creatures, of course, where they can be hunched forward, they can have the knees bent backwards like a lizard and all of that, but this definitely goes with the tokusatsu. Any other inspiration from either the Toho or Dai series or Ultraman series that went into kind of the inspiration for him?
So as far as character design inspirations for Megadon, obviously Godzilla is kind of the prototypical kaiju shape, but one thing that I definitely looked at is in terms of this kind of forward. I've always loved the horns that come out and go forward, and so there's actually a kaiju that it never appeared in any movies or anything. It's called Machine Soarer. It's a kind of dinosaur with cyborg parts, and he has that kind of horn. And then another thing, though, I'd have to ask Takashi, but when Takashi went in on designing his face, he made sure that Megadon didn't have nostrils and didn't have a kind of traditional eyebrow snout thing. So he's got more of it's a pretty unique kind of lizard face, and he's also got this jaw zigzag that gives him, kind of a natural snarl whenever he's even resting at mouth. Because one thing we discovered about kaiju is if you want to make a kaiju look ferocious, you shouldn't give it lips. You shouldn't it should always have its teeth exposed. If you want a kaiju to look docile, you can let it close its mouth and cover its teeth. But, if its teeth are always bared, then, it looks much cooler and much more ferocious. So
yeah,
just some things we learned.
How about Genera? Is there some inspiration behind him?
Yeah, so Genera, Genera is a kaiju that I actually initially designed, and I was looking at coconut crabs. So coconut crabs are these massive crabs that are blue in color, and they're huge, just beefy looking crabs. And then I was also looking at characters like Legion from Genera, and a little bit of like what's that Digimon? Hercules Kabuterimon from Digimon. Those were the main inspirations that, looking at this. But the coconut crab was really, I think, the most exciting thing for me was just this creature from nature that just looks tough. It's got this thick shell and huge claws, and it's a really cool looking animal, at least in terms of the initial concept.
Okay, and I was going to say we mentioned earlier the Arctic Blast, and you have your earlier color that you had, the first release. Did Genera also have a first release that was more of the fiery
No,
style?
That's actually Genera, the one that Alex has, is the first release for her. We're hoping that she'll arrive. Obviously, we've had some delays with COVID, with shipping being kind of what it is right now, but she's expected by the end of the year. So
yeah, this is actually the prototype. So the final version is going to have a couple of slight differences, but it'll be pretty much like this one here.
And what's interesting too, kind of what you were talking about before, kind of to segue to Mike, she didn't have a tail. So how did that, for you as a sculptor, kind of work out the balancing and geometric proportions of that?
He did a really good job on balancing this thing, which, as I'm sure any figure collector can attest to. I don't know, like Ultraman's already fallen down. Yeah. Everyone else is standing. Ultraman's fallen down. So go ahead, Mike.
It was pretty tricky, especially since like I don't know how to do any sort of like gravity simulation or something in the 3D program. So like it was mostly just when I was drawing the pictures of her and stuff like that, making sure that there was always like a straight line and a decent amount over top of that straight line down the middle. Because like, yeah, since she's also very top heavy, which Megadon isn't, makes it very tricky as well.
I remember thinking that when I saw the first 3D render, I was like, oh man, I hope it's not gonna be falling over. But then like when we saw, the prototype shots, and just when we heard, not only from what you did in the program, but from our manufacturer, they were like, he's like, nah, it's good,
Yeah, same with her claw. Like it's not resting on the ground as much as the tail, but like it does help to balance it a little bit. So
now, does Genera have flat feet, or are they kind of a claw? I just saw
a claw, like, yeah.
We flattened it just so it would stand better.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like the total kind of flat foot of the Megadon, which that gives an interest. That gives less surface area, I guess. So yeah, you were doing probably a lot of guesswork to put into that idea of balance, like you said, without a physical model being there. So kudos to the design of Genera. I'm going to have to get one myself. Is there additional articulation that makes Genera, obviously the arms?
Genera has the arms and legs, of course, and her head can rotate a very tiny bit, but I think that's it for articulation. Yeah.
Okay.
She's quite. If I'll show you next to Megadon, she's quite a chunky figure.
Yeah.
So she's got, whereas Megadon's got a little more thickness here and kind of length, she's quite wide. So they're built to scale with each other. And she's in the game, she's kind of a tanky armored character.
Okay. And also going back to the mythological supernatural kind of origin story.
Yeah. We're definitely pulling from things like Daimajin and Gamera and even like GMK, that kind of stuff.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's the way I was kind of imagining it, having that kind of a mythic origin story when you mentioned Nephilim, from the Bible and all that. And the idea that there's really no kind of limits to what you can put into the story and to the design and abilities to a creature like that. Whereas even with pseudoscience, you kind of have to somewhat try to stick within some of the bounds of the natural world, and so that makes that kind of opens up your world. It feels like, and that would actually, I think, lend itself to someone playing the game and replayability of that game, to be engaged in a story like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about the coloration. Yeah, you had the Arctic Blast. What kind of led you to going with that kind of color scheme as opposed to the original color scheme?
So the original one, like we were talking about a little bit before, kind of has this nice stained glass look. It's very unique, and it's kind of something that we wanted to do, something that was, not just a Sofubi, but just something that would stand out in your collection, something that would be eye-catching. And I mean, we've done the second one we did, which I can grab behind me. We did just a clear, solid reds. A lot of people do like to do custom paint jobs on figures like this. And when it came time for Arctic, we kind of wanted to experiment with glitter in the vinyl, and that was something we kind of talked about early on, kind of in that process. I mean, I think it's safe to say that we kind of have a laundry list of other things that we're wanting to experiment and try with figures out, but we thought for kind of sort of a third release, second official figure, we just wanted to try something glittery and that would shine and sparkle.
It definitely gives it some depth, and I was glad to see the glitter is mixed in with the mold, because the first thing as a dad with 5 kids in the house is I don't want to see glitter.
yes, glitter is evil.
Sending a glitter bomb to someone.
Yeah, but actually, what's cool is our manufacturer Benny, actually he baked it into the vinyl, so it's nothing that's really on the toy. Yeah, it's all basically built and kind of cooked inside, but tactilely, it's a very different feeling of a figure to the original Megadon, which kind of has a very different material. It's a little more, just a little more traditional Sofubi feeling, with the exception of the glacial parts. So when you actually come into the skin texture here, you can kind of feel the glitter around the skin, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it was definitely kind of a different type of decision to go with, and I think it makes it fresh too. It's fun for us to try different things, and we have the original model that Mike did, and from there we can kind of play around and do different color schemes and try different things.
Okay, and with the model, like you said, Mike, so you probably, the model is monochromatic or no color, kind of in that model that you created.
Yeah, originally, yeah.
Okay.
Overlay the colors, just try stuff out.
And then you can start playing with those colors, see what works, what doesn't work, and so I bet that was kind of an interesting process. But tell me about kind of the idea of the texture. Is that something that was in a consideration, not just the the fact that whether we use scales or not, but we've got kind of like the rings of the tail as you go along?
Oh, you mean like that? Oh yeah, like the actual like designs in them.
Yeah, like the considerations going into that. I don't know if that was your decision to go. It was probably in the sketch, right?
Yeah. We for Megadon, it was because like we wanted him to look like he was made out of like hardened magma, basically, and like the like cracks, so you could see like the magma shining out of it and stuff like that. So that was mostly the idea behind the texture for Megadon.
Yeah, since he's got that smooth, not textured, kind of like lizard, but he still got the lizard feel with the face, but everything else. Is there a story? Anyone can chime in on that, on kind of the forehead, little horn there.
Oh, the tiny horn?
Yeah, the little one, the little blue one.
That's a detail that's, I think, always just been there. right? I mean, yeah, I mean, Takashi kind of designed the whole character, for the game, and I know that he wanted the horns to kind of balance each other, and then he also included that little forehead horn. I'd have to ask him to see where he got that idea from.
From the video game perspective, the retro gamer in me looks at that like the weak spot in your boss stage.
Yeah, if you ever have to fight a Megadon boss, then yeah, you'd have to hit him on that little tiny horn for sure.
Yeah, that's got to be the source of his power or something like that. But very cool. Yeah, tell me about. Let's see, when it comes to Seismic and where you kind of want to go with this. Obviously, you've got this great start here, this figure, and where does it you want to kind of go? What's your kind of goals going forward as you go into this new endeavor?
Well, kind of all started. We teamed up about 2 years ago. We decided we were going to do this, me and Alex, and it's funny because we're going to make it. We're going to make a toy. It was kind of a pipe dream for us. We'd always kind of wanted to do something along those lines. It was kind of a bucket list, and we were originally thinking we were going to do like a cryptid or something along those lines. And I remember getting a call, and Alex like, "Hey, go on Skype for a second. I want to show you something." And that's when he first kind of told me about Dawn of the Monsters, and that's when I first saw the images of the game and Megadon himself, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." So, by happenstance, Seismic went from one thing, and then working with 13 AM Games and the IP there, it's been really, really exciting and cool to kind of. I mean, for me, I'm just working on with the toys with Alex, but kind of seeing the evolution of the game along the way has been pretty spectacular, and just kind of a fun journey. So, I mean, I know for us, we have some more things that we want to hopefully do with Dawn of the Monsters and different versions of Megadon and Genera. But there are other things that we're kind of laying the groundwork for right now. So that will be more on that when there's something to talk about, so to speak. But very exciting.
Yeah, it's our hope to. I mean, we like the Dawn stuff, and there's loads of Dawn of the Monsters characters, some that aren't even revealed yet that we think are going to make great toys, but we're hoping to make all sorts of other toys, whether it's other licensed stuff or even maybe new original stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, especially with the designer toy community. There's just so, you've got tons of great ideas and original imaginations that people are kind of coming up with and dreaming up of different characters. Again, we're all kaiju fans here, but I think at some point, we'd like to try to make figures of other things too. So that's something that is definitely that we're eyeing for in the future.
Yeah, awesome. And maybe one day, if we get past this whole pandemic thing, to see you guys at some cons out there, if they ever happen again.
I certainly hope so. Fingers crossed. Right. Exactly. I mean. G-Fest last year, 2019, was kind of I should take that back. Our first initial showcase for Megadon actually was at 5 Points Festival, which is a huge designer Sofubi show in Brooklyn here, and it got show. Just it's tons of companies come with exclusives, and we just had the prototype, and that was actually the first weekend that I had actually seen the current version of the figure, because like I said, we started with one prototype, and then our manufacturer came back and said, "Hey, here, what do you think of this?" And we were, and he gave it this glass look, and we both were like, "Yep, go for it. You got the green light." And we kind of fell in love with that. So people really responded to it, so that was always encouraging. And then G-Fest 2019 is when we really were able to kind of unveil and sell the first batch of Megadons, which you always want to do something fun, and when people can enjoy the figures and get a lot out of it, that's kind of icing on top of the cake.
And you mentioned, that leads me into my next kind of series of questions. You mentioned Sofubi. People ask me all the time. I see this word Sofubi, and I have my answer, but I kind of want to know what your guys' answer is. What is Sofubi, and why is it you went that route?
Well, So Sofubi, for those not in the know, is the Japanese kind of slang term for soft vinyl. So they would pronounce that as sofuto biniru, sofuto biniru. So they just shorten it to Sofubi. So basically, it's just soft vinyl is the material that's used to make these toys, and it implies a kind of more traditional production process for the toys. So they're made by creating these iron molds that you then pour heated soft vinyl into, and then they take a chemical bath. You empty out the excess vinyl, and you yank out your piece. So it's a traditional method of making toys that goes back to the 1960s, I think maybe even the 50s. And these kind of old school looking, I mean, these aren't even old toys, the ones in the background, but they are definitely inspired by that traditional look of old kaiju toys from Marmot, Bullmark, Marasan. So yeah, now it's become a super popular, I guess, medium for different toy companies like M1, Bullmark, etc. And yeah, so it's a medium that is nowadays popular with toy companies, more boutique toy companies, and then also artists and designers. So, you know, there was actually even like an art show here in Toronto that was all focused on soft vinyl toys.
And I think for us, the idea to do it as a Sofubi as opposed to making it, you know, look more realistic, there was some more artistic integrities that we could kind of take and interpretations, and I think that was kind of the fun aspect of it. Like, you know, which I'm kind of curious, Mike, for you. You know, you design stuff for the game. How does one take the game character, the way that looks, and then translate it into, you know, stylizing it for a toy?
I don't know. It's like, for the most part, Megadon is pretty similar looking to how he does in the game. But like, yeah, I don't know. Because like I was trying to give it like a little bit of a look of like an old school Sofubi as well. It was just kind of looking at what those look like and then trying to like change little bits and pieces to make it look a little bit more like those things. I don't know.
Give it that kind of retro feel. You know?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, especially on the way that these like ridges are on the front, like they're way more angular in the actual game. So like I made them like a little bit more like rounded and stuff like that. Or like same with the horns, they're like less edgy looking, I guess.
Yeah.
They look more like those old Sofubi toys.
Yeah, and I remember as well when Mike and I were talking about the toy design, how we like intentionally wanted to stylize it, and we were looking at the Sofubi stuff, obviously, because, you know, it's a good example, but also because like we still wanted to have a little bit more of an edge so that he looks mean, and it's because a lot of Sofubi stuff it does look cute, I find. So I think another kind of influence for us was like 90s toys, how like 90s toy lines would just exaggerate. Like they wouldn't translate something literally, they would always exaggerate it. Like He-Man, or even in the 80s, He-Man in the cartoon does not look like He-Man the toy. He-Man the toy is like, yeah, he's just a walking piece of meat. So that kind of 90s, 80s exaggeration, I think, was a key part.
We've got some He-Man.
There you go. Speak of the devil. You know?
Well, and even like Trendmasters, right? Trendmasters took.
Oh yeah.
I guess it's kind of like the Godzilla, the Heisei Godzilla, and then they push it a little bit. They push some of them to pretty crazy extents, like Anguirus and stuff. But that was kind of the order of the day in the 90s.
Either Mike or Alex, can you kind of talk about how the motion, the movements of Genera or Megadon, is it kind of like Godzilla with the slow kind of moving, you know, approaching storm, you know, to destroy the city, or is it anything a little different than that? His movements?
I'd say that's. I mean, Mike did animations for I think both of them.
Yeah, I did some animations for both. Yeah. Yeah, both of them. They're pretty not. I wouldn't say slow, but they're definitely like. You can tell that there's lots of weight to them in the way that they move. Yeah. I think it's like slightly faster than how someone like Godzilla moves, but like it's definitely in the same realm of like stomping.
Yeah. I think weighty is the way to put it, because there are some, because it's a video game. If the characters move too slow, it's like what am I driving a ship? It's just it stops becoming fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're a little more responsive, but like one of my favorite animations is Megadon has this punch where you hold down the heavy punch button and he just winds up his fist and then he unleashes it, and the whole animation just has this really beautiful weight to it, but it snaps out and creates a huge impact. So it's kind of like, I don't know, a street brawler maybe, or a pair, I don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely got the muscle behind it, the weight behind it. Is his energy source along the lines of the magma and heat or energy from the earth kind of idea?
Kind of, but you also, in the game, you get energy from destroying the other monsters. So every successful hit is going to give you energy you can use to perform special attacks.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, I can't wait to see when the game gets released. Is there any kind of teaser material coming out that people can kind of check out in the near future?
As far as, stuff coming out soon, I don't think there's anything coming out by the end of the year, though there is. We do occasionally post stuff on Twitter, and there is the teaser footage from Kaiju Conline, which is actually just playing a playthrough of an entire level that was done for the event. You can find that on our YouTube channel. Just type Dawn of the Monsters into YouTube. It should be the first result.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna probably get a few shots of that teaser in there. And so, tell me more about if I'm interested in maybe making a purchase of Megadon or any of the other great figures you've got on Seismic, any kind of sales or upcoming kind of events you've got coming up?
Sure. We just finished up a Halloween sale, which was pretty fun. Kind of a good way to get into the spirit of things, quote unquote. And there will be something for Black Friday. We are working out the final details for that. So there'll be some doorbuster sales and things of that nature. Again, not having the conventions as usual this year with everything going on, unfortunately, it's you've got to kind of evolve and take a different approach. But we'll be doing that. And again, we post things regularly, whether there are new items in stock or just upcoming things that we're working on, which hopefully that'll be coming in the not too distant future. And as well as just like other things that we have. Just we like to do some fun pictures too, a lot of cool social media kind of things. And you can visit us at www.seismictoys.com and at Seismic Toys on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So that's pretty fun. And again, all the kind of going what we were said before about the traditional kind of having that toy line effect of the old Sofubis. Again, we nice shout out to John Bellotti at Robo7 for doing some awesome work on our header cards as an example of that, and the original one behind us. So, that was always a kind of a fun aspect to do as well, to kind of, bring an artist in to do an interpretation and kind of give that kind of a retro, but a kind of a different look between the header cards between both releases. Yeah,
it's really cool. And you can find him on Instagram and everything at Robo7.
Yep.
Yeah, I love seeing that artwork. Actually, John Bellotti coming out. So it's so many, hands that have kind of come together, and it's obvious that they're all fans of this genre. And there's a lot of love to show for the characters here, that it wasn't just another job for you guys, for anyone else who worked on it. the names you've mentioned today, I can just definitely tell there was a lot of tender loving care put into this. That it wasn't just something to make a little extra money. That it was something that you enjoyed putting together, and looking forward to seeing kind of what's coming next for you guys. So, any final thoughts before we kind of close out our episode here?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would just agree with that, Nick, and that's 100% true. I mean, we've had a blast, and again, it doesn't feel like work. It's just a fun thing. The experimenting with colors and ideas, and me and Alex. I mean, we've got a laundry list of like things like we're do this, and like it's fun to say, okay, what can we do next? What do we want to do next? And that's kind of in the joy of it, and that's what makes it the most rewarding.
All right. Any final thoughts from either one of you two gentlemen?
No, I mean, I agree. Chris and I used to joke about, oh yeah, one of these days we're going to make a toy, and then we just finally did it. And it's been great working with Chris. It's been great working with Mike, and with John Bellotti as well. He's also doing the art for the Genera header card. So yeah, it's just been fun, and a kind of a cool way also to merge like my two businesses together, like working in games or working in toys. So it's been a lot of fun.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, and I remember visiting you guys last year and like getting kind of a tour of meeting everybody at 13 a.m. and just kind of I don't know, it's been cool just kind of collaborating. Like you said, it's for me, I'm not in the video game world by nature, but it's fun to kind of see that process taking shape. And you guys are doing quite an awesome job.
All right. Very cool. Thank you all, gentlemen, for being here. I encourage everyone out there on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and just looking up the website, of course, to 13 AM Games and Seismic, and checking out what they've got. Thank you all, gentlemen, for being here, and we look forward to seeing what you got in the near future. And for me, Nick Adam, polling here at the Monster Report, this has been another episode and the unboxing and talking to the gentleman behind Seismic and 13 AM. Megadon here. Looks great. It's going to be a great addition to the collection there. So thank you guys and have a great one.
Thanks, Nick.
You too.